Hi everybody, my name is Jens Larsen. The Ellington Strayhorn tune, Satin Doll, is really a tune that you need to have in your repertoire. You want to know it not only because it's played often and it's famous, but also because it's a great tune if you want to check out some easy jazz chords and if you want to work on comping 2/5s with a bit of variation. In this video I'm going to show you two sets of jazz chords and I'm going to apply them to Satin Doll, and those are the two sets of shell-voicings, which are great if you want to play the song in sort of a swing tradition, in a Freddie Green style, like this kind of sound. But also really a great place to start if you want to have some basic chords that you can expand on and add some extensions and some more variation. And at the end of the lesson I'm going to show you an example of how that might work. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, improve the way that you solo, check out some interesting arpeggios or chord voicings, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. Satin Doll is an AABA form and it's a 32 bar standard. And this is really useful to remember and to take into account when you're trying to learn the song, mostly because if you know that it's an AABA, then you only have to memorize an A part and a B part and not the entire 32 bars. Another thing that you also want to keep in mind is that you want to think about all the 2/5s that are in the progression, because most of this song is really built up of 1 bar 2/5 progressions as one thing. If you can lock these two chords together and think of them as one progression rather than two separate chords, it's going to save you a lot of time and it's going to make it a lot easier to memorize. In general, chord progressions should be like words and you don't want to spell them every time. As you can tell, I've written out the chords in half notes because what we're focusing on here is really the voicings, even though I'm playing it in a Freddie Green style, which means that I'm playing quarter notes. But I think if you just think about what the chords are and what voicing you need to use, then that's more useful than me writing out all the quarter notes. A shell voicing is a very compact and clear way of playing a chord. So it only contains sort of the bare minimum of information that we want to get across, because it contains the root, the third and the seventh. But this is also enough to really get the basic chord sound across, and that's of course the main focus when we're comping. Of course you can add colors to it, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the video. Just to show you that this is enough to spell out the chords, let's take a C chord, and then it has a flat 7 and a major third, so that makes it a dominant chord. If it has a flat 7 and a minor third, then it's a minor 7 chord. If it has a major 7 and a major third, then it's a major 7 chord. So in that way we can actually cover pretty much everything that we need when we want to play the chords for pretty much any tune. The first chord that I'm playing is this D minor 7 up here. So we have the D, the 7th, the C and the 3rd F. And then this moves to G7, which is found here. So this moves within the 2/5. This is really a smooth movement and there's really not a lot happening. We're not changing position or anything like that. And you want to think about the shell voicings from the root probably in the beginning. And the way you want to do that is, and that's also really how you want to lock them together and keep that in mind. So we have sort of a 6th string D minor shell voicing and a 5th string G7 shell voicing. The next two chords, so that's a 2/5 in D major in fact, and that's E minor and A7, and I'm playing that exactly the same, just 2 frets higher. So this E minor, this A7, and that's repeated. Now we're moving to A minor 7 D7 in bar 5, and here I can actually just change this A7 to an A minor 7 by changing the third into a minor third, so from C sharp to C, and then I have this voicing. So that's a minor voicing with the root on the 5th string. And then that moves to a D7, which is a dominant voicing with root on the 6th string, like this. So we have the D, the flat 7, the C, and then the F sharp, the major third. And then we get exactly the same, but a half step lower, because we have A flat minor 7, and then D flat 7. From here, I've written it out as if it's the first A part where it goes back to another A part, just because there are a little bit more chords in there. So we have a C major 7, and then a B7, and a B flat 7, and then an A7. That was the first A part, it's probably useful to notice that I'm starting with the root on the 6th string, and that I'm pretty much staying up in this area of the neck also. And of course you want to think about this because we are later going to have an example where I'm playing an A part and then starting with the other D minor 7 voicing, which is the minor 7 with the root on the 5th string, like this. The way that I'm playing the bridge here is of course also staying up in this area where I play the A part, and that means that the first 2/5 is the G minor C7. I'm playing that starting with this G, so the G on the 5th string, this shell voicing, moving to this C7, that repeats. Then I'm moving to F major 7, which is an F major 7 with the root on the 5th string. And then the next chord is an A minor 7. And then of course that fits with this D7, just as it did in the A part. And then we move to D minor 7, which is really just the beginning of the A part again, and then to G7, and then to the last A. The reason that I can keep on publishing videos every week is that I have a small community of people over on Patreon that are supporting my channel. I'm very grateful for their support, and that's really what makes it possible for me to find the time to make videos all the time. If you want to help me keep making videos, then you can check out my Patreon page. There's a link in the description. And of course, if you join us over on Patreon, I can also give you something in return for your support. As you can see, this is very similar to how I was playing in the first example. The only difference is now that whenever I was using this set, then I'm switching to the other set, which will be starting here. And here it's also useful to notice that it makes it a lot easier if you can really think of these sets as one thing and not really as two separate chords that you have to think about. And I think this is something that's really important when you're trying to learn this, and that you should also start thinking like that whenever you're comping and you have to comp a 2/5 progression. Satin Doll is a great exercise for this, I think. So just to cover what I played, the first one is of course this D minor 7 with the root on the 5th string, moving to the G7 with the root on the 6th string. That's repeated. And then similar to the first example, moving up 2 frets, playing the same thing. So E minor 7, A7, E minor 7, A7. And now, so the first one I was playing the A minor with the root on the 5th string. Now I'm playing it with the root on the 6th string. So this A minor to this D7, and then this A flat minor to D flat 7, and then I'm moving to this C major 7 shell voicing, which is the same as what I was using for the F major 7 in the bridge, because this works better. And this is where jazz is not an exact science. So instead of being really systematical and trying to use the other B flat 7 and B7 and A7, then I'm moving up here and using the same ones as the first time. And I'm really just doing that because I think that will fit better with looping. So so when I go back to the next A part, so first this C major 7, and then B7, B flat 7, and then A7. For the first examples, I was playing all the voicings in a Freddie Green style, so really with a pick in quarter notes. But now that I'm gonna start working on how you can add extra extensions and other melody notes to the shell voicings, then I think it makes a little bit more sense to start playing with the fingers, because that's really gonna make it a little bit easier to play some of these voicings. Let's start adding some notes to the first voicing. So the D minor 7 with the root on the 6th string, so this D minor. And of course we have one note in the melody here, that's the F, the 3rd. Then I can add the 11th on top of that. So now I have that one. And I can also add the A like this. And this is probably what you know already as a D minor 7 drop 3 voicing. We can add the 13, or the 7th, or even the root, or the 9th. And of course all these different options are stuff that we can tap into while we're comping. And the way I'm thinking about this is really just still coming out of this voicing. So in a way I'm just thinking about a lot of options that I have all connected to this voicing. And that means that I don't have to really learn a new voicing for each of these. For the G7 in the same position? Well, it's going to be pretty similar. So first the 7th in the melody, then the root, which is of course also the G7 that you know already, the 9th, the 3rd. Then I've sort of left out the 11th because that just doesn't sound nice, so I wouldn't use it. Then the 5th and the 13th. So if you want to work on this, then try and play these examples as sort of a scale exercise. So something like, and when I'm doing this, you can also tell that it's kind of clear why I'm shifting from playing with a pick to playing with my fingers, because that just makes this a lot easier. And that's even more clear when we come to the G7, because here I really have some places where I'm not using the B string here. So I have these voicings that's like the shell voicing and then just this extra note on top. And that's just easier to navigate with your right hand if you can just play each note individually. Once you're really comfortable playing this example as sort of a scale exercise, then you can start improvising just on the 2-5 using these different melody notes. That could be something like this. And of course, you can also expand on doing this by using the other chords, but really you want to first just have an idea and start building a vocabulary of what is possible, what is playable in this position. We can of course also look at the other shell voicing sets, so starting with the D minor where the root is on the 5th string. So here we have first the 7th, then the root, then the 9th, and then the minor 3rd, and the 11th, and then the 5th. For the G7, so here first the 3rd, then I'm skipping the 11th or the 4th because I don't want to have this sound in there, and then I'm going to directly to the 5th, 13, 7th, root, and 9th. And here you can also tell that I'm barring here, so I cannot really play this with a pick because then I'm gonna have other notes ringing that I don't want to have in there. Especially I'm gonna have this C ringing that doesn't really fit with the chord. So that's why I'm playing this with my fingers, and that makes that a lot easier. So now we have a way of adding some more notes to the shell voicings, and if you use that on the A part of Satin Doll, then that sounds like this. So the way that I made this exercise, just to keep it a little bit more playable, and also just to kind of have the idea that we're playing a chord and we're changing a melody on top of it, then I designed the exercise so that I'm playing the chord on 1 and 3. So I'm playing the D minor on the 1 and the G7 on the 3, and then the melody is changing on top of the chord. So that means that for the first chord I'm playing this D minor 9, then I'm changing the melody note up to an F, going down to this G7 where I'm playing a G7 13, changing the melody note, and then back to D minor 9, changing the melody, G7, and then the G as a melody note, and then on the E minor 7, first the F sharp, then the G, and then the G and the A7, so the 7th, and then down to the 5th, the E, back to F sharp on the E minor, and then up to the B, and then the root on the A7, down to the flat 7, so the G, and then I'm skipping down on the A minor 7 here, first the C, then the D, and then the E on the D7, and here I can actually sustain, this is the first place where I can actually sustain the chord and play the melody at the same time, so, and then I let go of the chord. And then a similar melody on the A flat minor, D flat 7, so completely the same movement, then playing just the E flat twice, because that leads really nicely to the E on the C major 7, and then the D, and then the G G in the melody, because G is sort of a nice, almost like a pedal point on the, yeah, I guess that's a pedal point, a melodic pedal point on the B7. And again, actually also on the B flat 7, but now I start varying to going from the 13 G down to the 5th, which is an F, like this. And then the flat 13, so F on the A7 up to the G. If you want to check out some more examples of how I'm using shell voicings, then maybe check out this easy chord melody arrangement of the song Autumn Leaves, where I'm using shell voicings quite often. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar and this is the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. And that's about it for this week. Thank you for watching, and until next week.